Zdaj pa predajam besedo našima gostoma na Poljskem in v Avstriji. Mr. Pawełom Horbaczewskim, the digital stage is yours and we are ready for your opening speech.
Hello, my name is Pawełom Horbaczewskim. I'm a president of Inkbook Europe, one of a few companies in the world that are manufacturing mobile devices based on e-ink technology, like the ebook readers. So I would like to talk a little bit today about the technology we are using and how it is affecting the ebook industry in the modern times. So first of all, just briefly for the people who have not met before and are not familiar with ink technology, I need to mention a little bit about the differences between this technology and the solutions we know from the devices we are using every day, like smartphones. So first of all, the typical screen that is used in ebook reader, the e-ink screen works on the completely different principles. First of all, it does not emit any light, it does not blink, it does not flash. It's not a liquid crystal screen like we know from the TVs, computers, and most of the mobile devices. The screen contains the small micro particles of a digital ink that are set in place using the electromagnetic field. So the screen itself works like a digital sheet of paper that could be printed and erased over and over and over again. Thanks to this solution, we have some limitations, but we have some big advantages as well. So the biggest advantages are currently that the screen does not put any stress on the eyes of the user, which is very important when we are reading for an extended period of time. For example, we hardly feel any difference when we read only a short news or a social media on a mobile phone for 2 or 3 minutes and we put the phone away. However, if we are about to focus on a book or a long text that we are supposed to focus on for at least 15 minutes or half an hour, it makes a big difference if we are reading from a static screen or from the screen of a computer that still emits light and blinks in front of us. Another thing is that the screen itself consumes energy only when we change its contents. So during the time the screen is presenting an image or presenting a text, it does not continuously consume power like a smartphone. Thanks to this small difference, the typical usage time, the battery lifetime of a typical ebook reader is several weeks at least, if not even a month of the normally daily use, compared to 1 or 3 days when we can use our smartphone on the single battery charge. Another thing, this is more of an advantage compared to the physical book, is that using a single handheld device, we can easily access hundreds, if not thousands, of books stored inside the memory, or even available through mobile services over Wi-Fi or GSM connection. So the same way as we may say with our smartphone, but the differences are that the technology itself is more eye-friendly. The downside is of course that currently the most efficient and the most usable screens are only black and white. However, we need to remember that most of the books, most of the text are already printed black and white. So unless we want to use very sophisticated multimedia content, like very complex educational books, it does not really matter for our daily use. So following up the specifics of the technology, there is also a common misconception in the market I would like to address a little bit. The technology we know right now in most ebook readers first appeared to the market in the year 2007. A few years after, around year 2010 to 2011, there was a very big rise on the smartphone market when this market began, and the usage of smartphones and tablets were increasing. So first, these tablets especially were introduced as so-called mobile internet devices meant to use the internet. Quickly, it turned out that both a smartphone and a tablet can be also used to read any kind of content, not only websites, not only news, not only social media that were that were rising rapidly over the last 10 years, but also ebooks. And most of the smartphones and tablets comes with ebook applications pre-installed, like Google Books, like iBooks. So we often meet with a misconception that this technology is outdated and the new, more available and colorful smartphones has replaced it entirely. I usually say that this is something like saying that the smartphone has entirely replaced a TV set for video on demand services. Of course, we can imagine that we still use our smartphone to access a video on demand media, but the most convenient way to consume this kind of media, to watch movies and watch TV shows, is in our living room using a big TV, which is the most comfortable way to use it. And the same comes with ebooks. You can use ebook on your smartphone, but as I have said at the beginning, everyone who reads the text for longer than several minutes will feel a very big difference between using a smartphone or any e-ink based device. The difference is mostly how we feel, how we receive this media, how comfortable we see it, and how much stress we put on our eyes. These are the biggest differences in the terms of usage. Another important factor is the access to the services. So there is another common misconception that ebook reading devices, dedicated ebook reading devices, are usually connected with one single service provider, and either we attach ourselves to this service provider and we stay loyal to one big service provider, or we need to use content that is not protected by any kind of DRM. By DRM, I mean digital rights management, which means for the end user that it is not possible to access content in public libraries, it is not possible to access content in subscription services. This is not also entirely true. Most of the modern ebook readers, like our inkbook, uses a small applications like every single microcomputer, like smartphone, tablet, like a laptop, that allows to access special services. So the same as you install an app on your smartphone to access your favorite library or subscription service, the same could be done on the ebook reader one way or another. So the same, like you can use Netflix on your TV, even if your TV is not based on iOS, on Android, exactly. You can still use the same, your favorite ebook service on your ebook reader. These are extremely important facts, especially nowadays when we face challenges related with many lockdowns and global pandemic of the COVID-19. So at the beginning of the year 2020, in the first and the second quarter of the year 2020, a lot of public libraries and bookstores were shut down. This means that a lot of end users from one day to another lost access to the multimedia content. They lost access to the books. It was very difficult to loan a new book or purchase a new book. And at the same time, the mobile technologies and the digital media answered the demand from the market, and we can observe worldwide the usage and the consumption of the ebook content has risen. For example, in Poland, subscription services that are widely available in the public libraries has grown at least 400% in the numbers of the new users and the users that were activating the new accounts for the first time. Moreover, the research made on the market says that over 70% of these new users that were encouraged to use a digital media for the first time are still going to use it after the lockdown finishes and all the traditional services are resumed. Right now, in the third quarter of the year, at the end of the third quarter of the year, when most of the limitations in most of the countries were lifted, we observed that this trend, in fact, is true. So overall usage of a digital media in the markets we are working with is significantly higher than the last year. And at the same time as the best tool to use a digital media like an ebook is an ebook reader. So we also receive a huge interest of the new users also in the specialized ebook reading devices, especially if those devices comes with the services they are already subscribed to and the general public is used to use. So, in the end, the few questions that also very commonly appear when we talk about ink technologies is the direction where the market will go and how this technology is going to develop. This is also very important to point out that since the year 2007, for some people, they may seem that there is no huge development in this area. Well, the fact is that the technology itself is not perceived as a very demanding multimedia technology. So it is not required a lot of processing power or a 3D acceleration like we have what we observe from one generation of a smartphone from another to use a modern content. All we need to use is an e-ink screen and enough processing power to render properly an ebook, a text or an image. So the requirements in the front of the ebook technology is not the same as the requirements that we put in front of video on demand services or video games. So we do not need to change our ebook reader every year or every 2 years as we usually do with our computers or as we usually do with our smartphones. Because still the devices that has been purchased that exist back in the 10 years ago are still working mostly and they still could be used to some, of course, extent. What really the progress that has been made during last 10 years or last 13 years in this industry is the development of a front light. It might be a quite funny fact because every single smartphone user probably will laugh at that, but e-ink screen, as I said at the beginning, does not emit any light. So the first e-ink devices that existed in the market requires the usage of an external light source. So we needed to use a reading lamp to read an ebook the same as we are using a reading lamp to read a paperback book. Several years ago, the new technology was developed that allows to put a light in the front of the screen. It is called a front light, not a backlight, as we have in the smartphones, tablets, and LCD monitors. But this allows also to put a light evenly distributed on the surface of the screen that still does not shine directly to our eyes and does not put any stress on our eyes, but makes the text perfectly visible, and it is possible to use the modern ebook readers without any external lamp during night time in a bus, on a train, or in our bedroom. Another significant development is the resolution of the screen. The e-ink screens we use right now are even more sophisticated, or maybe not a good word, are even sharper and present a text in the higher quality when digital print or the print used in the most of the books. So we can display really high definition text with all of with a very sophisticated fonts or very sophisticated illustrations with a perfect quality that looks even better than a digital print, or in most cases even the industrial grade offset print. Well, another obvious question is when the color will be available. It is right now. The color e-ink screen exists, but as we learn and as we know, this technology is not yet ready to be widely used in the market. Maybe it will be soon, but right now the color e-ink screen that exists does not present very good quality of the image. It requires, the image itself is quite dark, it requires a lot of light to deliver it to the screen, a lot of reflected light from the screen to present a clear picture. And the color palette, the number of colors, are not exactly what we are used to in our smartphones, TVs, and monitors. We do not have millions of colors available, but roughly several hundred or a few thousand colors. So basically, this kind of image looks like an old print, but it's still possible to use it to some extent in education projects, for example, when a very simplistic display of color is beneficial and the high quality of the text or the high quality of the images are not very important. Yes, and this is what I would like to share. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Paweł Horbaczewski.